In this exercise, we will try out DSL query. DSL queries are easier to read and debug as compared to query strings. Moreover, complex and long queries may lead to serious problems with query strings. In this example, we will create a slightly complex query in DSL to answer following question. Which are the courses that require Java as a skill, but they are starting in or after March next year? To answer such a question, we will use DSL as follows. We will have a query. First, we will do a check on the term, okay? And we need the field skills to have a value called Java, all right? Then we also want it to have a check on the start date for the course. And that date should be greater than the, say, 10th of the March next year, all right? And it's a range type query because we are checking the date range, all right? And we want both of these checks. First check is it should have a Java as a skill, and the other one is the start date should be in March next year. Both of these checks must be satisfied for our result. Okay, so that's why we put a must here. All right, it's a keyword for DSL query. Then this whole query is called a Boolean query because it is checking both these conditions and making sure that they are satisfied. All right, so it's very simple format. The structure of the query is similar to what we use to create new documents in Elasticsearch in our previous exercises. Okay, it is easier to run it directly in a file rather than on the command prompt. So we have it saved in a file called dq1. So let's open the terminal and run this query. Okay, let's clear it out. So we have dq query 1. Let's open this. I have same query in two formats. One is if you want to run it directly on the command prompt, you can do it from here. Just copy it and post it on your prompt. But if you want to run it from a file, then I have formatted it. You can read and understand what's going on here. Okay. So the first one is commented out, so it will not be used. The second command will be executed. Okay. So let's run this. Let's make sure it has executable permissions. All right. Okay, so let's examine the results. Okay, so when we ran this query, it took 149 milliseconds. It's slightly more than what it took for the previous exercises. And it hit 5 shards and 5 of them were successful. So cluster is looking good here. The maximum score is 1.04, so it is very confident about the result. Okay, so there is only one result it could retrieve matching the criteria we provided. Okay, and we got this result. So let's see if it is accurate or not. So the skill has Java and the date is on 3/15/2017. So it looks like it is an accurate result. Okay, and our query is working as expected. Now here I want to mention one very important point. If you remember when we were creating the index and loading our data set, we had also created a mapping. And if you go back and look at the mapping, you will find that we specified that the field called start underscore date should not be analyzed. You will see that it has a property index equal to not analyzed. We specified that property because we don't want Elasticsearch to split this date into its individual terms. Okay, if it happens, then we will not be able to query on the values of the dates or the range. Okay, because if you go back, you will notice that we specified index not analyzed, which means that Elasticsearch should save the value of start date as we are providing while creating the data set. Okay, this way we can run range queries as we did in this exercise. If we do not specify index not analyzed, then the default behavior of indexing will be used by Elasticsearch, which is to analyze all the fields. Okay, now when it analyzes the fields, it may split up the values in the field into their small individual terms. Okay, so it may happen that our 3, 15, 17 may be stored as 3, 15 and 17 as 3 different values. So if you run a range or any query on the full value, it may not work, right? So that is why we added the property called index not analyzed. So now you understand why we had done that. All right, so we will try one more example for DSL in next exercise. So stay tuned.